Hi, everyone. We'll continue our discussion on data insights today. We've been discussing it for the past few weeks. And I have repeated every time we've discussed data insights that there are essentially two things that you need to take care of. One, the concepts that, the concepts tested in data insights are essentially the concepts of quant and verbal. That is your arithmetic, your percentages, weighted averages, your sets, for example, probability comes in, etc. Then, of course, your conditionals in verbal. So all these things with CR, obviously, what is an inference, etc. in case it's a non-quant type of question. So essentially, the basic concepts of data insights are all covered in quant and verbal. There really isn't any additional content, not much, that is. And then, of course, the second part is practice questions. You have to practice the questions really well to understand what are the traps that are there in DI questions. Then how can you reduce time? Obviously, time management is a big problem that people have today, right? So then in the last few weeks, we've been discussing practice questions, the official practice questions. We've been discussing how to reduce time taken to solve the questions, how to ensure that you've understood what are the various traps in these questions, etc. So today we'll continue the discussion of ours. We'll discuss graphs today. Yeah, I have picked up some of the questions which have those traps and which do take a minute to understand what exactly they are talking about. So we'll discuss how to approach those. Of course, keep in mind that every graph question should take about 2 minutes, nothing more than that. Yeah, because these are simple, these are straightforward. You can allocate at most 2 minutes to these questions. We know where our extra time in DI is going to go, right? MSR, for example, then TPA also. Yeah. All right. So I'll share my screen now. We'll start with the first question. The Q&A has been enabled. So in case, just a moment. You want to share your answer, or in case you have any question, etc., let me know on the Q&A. All right. So this is our first question for today. Let me know in case there is any problem, if you're unable to see the screen, etc. Let me know that. Yeah. I'll give you a couple of minutes, try it out. I'm guessing that you've read the question and you understand it, right? A certain city's bus system includes several stops within university campus. The city has devised a new plan to decrease the amount of time bus drivers devote to receiving payments at the busy university stops. Okay, under the new plan outlined in the diagram. So here is my flow chart, right? I don't have to go through the entire flow chart, understand everything, every box, understand, what is the decision that is being taken over here, what is it. I don't have to do that. I don't have to try to memorize, okay, if this condition is met, then this happens, that happens, or even try to understand, because the flowchart is likely going to be a little more elaborate, whereas for your answer, you don't really need to understand the entire flowchart. There'll be parts where even if you're not, focusing on those, you will still get your answer. So that is why, and as we have seen in a lot of DI questions, you do have a lot of extra information, right? Only a small part of it would be used to answer the questions. That is why over evaluation of what is given to us doesn't really help. Yeah. Especially if we have tables, for example, or if we have an entire big graph, we don't have to evaluate the whole thing before we even move on to the questions. Okay. Now, under the new plan outlined in the diagram, passengers would pay upon entry, pay upon exit, or ride free. So these are the three things that would happen, three actions that would be taken, depending on the time of day, on their boarding and departure location, and on whether they present a valid university student identification card. Okay. So look, if I just look at this diagram, the end, of course, the result, what happens at the end finally, right? That is what I'm looking at. So they're saying that either they pay on entry, or they pay on exit, or they ride free, depending on various factors that on their boarding and departure locations. And then I see there's something boarded between 6 to 7, presented a valid ID, etc., etc. So then fine, this entire sentence then makes sense, depending, based on what the flowchart gives us. Okay, fine. Again, I'm not going to evaluate if this is there, yes, if this is there, no, nothing. Yeah, I just have seen what is given in the flowchart. How is it relevant? Essentially, you have to decide whether the person should pay on entry or pay on exit or ride free based on various conditions that are mentioned. Conditions like this, right? Okay, now select from each drop-down that creates the most accurate statement. This statement is pretty much standard all across the graph questions. Fine. according to the diagram now, under the new plan, if a bus passenger, and then I'm going to look at what my drop down gives me, right? I have to see the possible options. Then I will proceed on checking just those options. Here it doesn't really matter, but in a lot of graph questions, ensure that I have to focus on the options available to me. Automatically, the data that I have to focus on will become extremely small. Yeah, for example, the drop down will have 3 or 4 values. Maybe the graph has 10 different values. Yeah, I have to only compare those 3 or 4 values. So I will immediately look at what are the options in the drop down. Fine. So rides free, pays on exit, or pays on entry. Basically, I have to choose one of these three. So if a bus passenger, one of these three, then that passenger must not have. Then this means must not have. I am looking for a necessary not condition. That there is this one condition which is necessary for either this, or for either this. And the negation of this condition is necessary. Yeah. Let me look at pay on entry. Look at what it is. There is a no over here boarded between this and this. So that means this condition is a negated condition, boarded between 6 a.m. and so I can say that that passenger must not have boarded between 6 a.m. and 7 p.m. Right? This is one of the options, boarded between. But then notice another thing, that pay on entry is also achieved by another no over here, boarded at university stop. So if the passenger has not boarded at a university stop, then he could pay on entry. Or if the passenger has not boarded between 6 a.m. and 6 p.m., then he could have paid on entry. So now, if a person is paying on entry, can I say that he must not have? Is there a single necessary condition? There isn't, right? Because this also, the negation of this also leads me to pay on entry, and negation of this also leads me to pay on entry, which means neither one of them alone is a necessary condition. This alone will also take me to pay on entry, right? And this alone will also take me to pay on entry, right? So they both are sufficient conditions, but neither one of them is necessary. So I know that my pay on entry cannot be chosen over here, right? This is certainly not the answer. All right. Now, because I know what the answer is, I'll rather go to, first of all, I'll check ride free. Otherwise, of course, we are going to look at pay on exit next. But okay, let me just take a look at ride free. Now, to obtain ride free, what is a negated necessary condition? That is what I'm looking for, right? But then look at this, exiting at a university stop. Anyway, it's not present in these three options. Ignore. Then presented a valid. If this is yes, then I can ride free. So then this negated of this is certainly not the necessary condition that you need for riding free, right? So then this is also not possible. Is that great? Yeah. Look, can it be boarded at a university stop? If it is yes, then I am reaching ride free. So essentially, there isn't any negated condition which is taking me to ride free. So then, of course, this can also not be the answer. I know I need a negated necessary condition. Why? Because I have a must not have over here, right? So then I come to pay on exit. Now, one obvious thing I see is that exiting at a university stop, if this is no, it leads me to pay on exit. Do I have must not have exited at a university stop? I don't have it. All right. So then I must go ahead up further. Then there is another no over here. Again, a negated condition. Presented a valid university student ID. So then essentially I am reaching this particular branch of my flow chart when this is a no, right? Of course, this has to be no, then I'm reaching this branch. It is still possible for me to go somewhere else. But if I have to reach pay on exit, this has to be a no, this has to be a yes, and this has to be a no, which means that if I want a negated necessary condition, I can either have this or I can have this. This is the only way for me to reach on pay on exit, right? Which means, and this one is present over here, presented a valid university ID card. So then this is my answer. Does that make sense? Notice these words must not have. So what you're looking for is something which is necessarily not there, which means in my decision boxes, I'm looking for a no. to get to the answer. To get to this, I'm looking for a no, but only one necessary no. To get to this, I'm looking for a no, but only one necessary no. In fact, I don't have any no to reach right free. Of course, it can't be the answer. Then this has to be the answer. And this, the decision of this, if it is a no, I do reach this arm of my flow chart, which ends in pay on exit. And this is the only way to reach this arm, which leads to pay on exit. Or that only this thing is taking me to pay on exit, right? There is nothing else which, like for example, there isn't anything over here which could take me over here and then lead to pay on exit, right? That means there is only one such condition, and that is why this is the necessary condition. Make sense?